Life Beats. Life Beats with Sally Musa. Only on Pulse 95.
We are talking women making waves with two women who know exactly how to do that themselves. Mashal Waqar and Laila Alawa are here with us in the studio, founder and co-founder of the Tempest. It's an amazing list. This is brilliant. You've got people like Huda Idris, founder and CEO of Dot Health, a smartphone app, an online portal that allows users easy access and ownership of their personal health data. And she's an industrial engineering grad. And she's all, into problem solving, looking at things like that. And I love that a couple of names on your list have already been on our show.
Oh.
Hang on. Let me bring you in. Can you guess who they are?
I can. Can I?
Oh, of course you can. Yeah, because you're the friend show, so go for it. Or the show's friend. I really
for reference, y'all need to listen to the last episode for reference.
She's still upset about that. I can see. She's got this bitterness going on. She's not over it. I'm not really sure what we're going to do about this, but anyway, we'll get there.
We need to get her own show. I think that's how
I think that's what
okay.
it is.
I'm good. No, we got Rana Nawaz and Yo Sturks.
Right. Rana Nawaz she's an amazing woman, corporate veteran who has started the When Women Win podcast, which is brilliant as well. But she's been on the Morning Message with us before, sharing her story. That's an amazing story. But yeah, Yos she was actually one of our first guests here on Life Beats.
Really?
On the very first show. Because she launched her book.
Girls Do Good.
Girls Do Good. And so we had her on the show to talk about that, along with Kira Jean, who is of the Dreamwork Collective as well. So yeah, doing brilliant things. I love that book so much, and it's such a brilliant gift.
Yeah, it's great. It's incredible, and I think it's so important for young girls and boys to see these role models in different in different industries, and to see these different, I think, people they can look up to.
Yes,
growing up, right? That's
exactly.
important.
It's not just for girls. It's important
girls and boys,
to remember. These kind of books are brilliant because they bring you into a whole different world, where you see girls who are doing things that you may not have seen before or may not have imagined before, but they're being done. And, they're conquering all kinds of obstacles, which is brilliant. So Yos is on that list. This list is amazing, but I want to get your thoughts, Mashal and Laila, around, women in the region, in the UAE, and particularly here in Sharjah. I feel like we have such an amazing list. When I asked the guys on Morning Majlis to kind of think about who is doing big things here in Sharjah, they had quite a long list, more than we can probably cover today.
There's a lot of incredible things happening, and I love that there's a lot of strong women who are pushing these changes forward, right? One of my favorites, and I can never, I feel like I start fangirling every time I talk about her, Najla Al-Mitfa. I look up
She
her.
really does. She really does.
But you two know Najla quite well because, first of all, you girls were part of the Accelerator program. The Tempest was actually here in Sharjah, part of the Sharjah Accelerator program. And then now you guys are mentors for Sharjah as well.
Yep.
Specifically Mashal, because I am not here.
Not as often as we'd like. But we're working on that. Yeah.
Still working on that. So Sharjah, I think, so when I joined in, I think I feel like I personally was on a different phase, even with my life and professionally. And by the end of the program, in moving forward, I think, and then that's how I transitioned from being part of the program to becoming a mentor, was because of everything that I learned. And I think sometimes when you learn things the hard way, it teaches you a lot more, right? Because you can hear about people's lessons, but when you're going through a really tough time and you're learning everything firsthand, I think that's probably the most effective teacher.
Talk to us about some of the key lessons that you learned through Sharjah that really helped you guys in terms of building the Tempest and really coming into your own as well.
I think one very important lesson was in terms of soft skills. Mm-hmm. I think that was important, and it helped personally and professionally, but more importantly, understanding how, as a co-founder or founder, it's really important for you to nail down certain skills that you might not have realized were essential. And the whole pitching, right? So even when you're not pitching, you unconsciously are. And so whether you're either pitching to your customers, which is for us, our audience, potential customers, which again, this is more professional, and then or investors, right? And so understanding that and understanding the whole art of it as well.
Yes.
Because they have this specific thing, which is incredible, right? So before their showcase day, they actually fly in this pitch coach, Bianca from Germany, who's one of the best pitch coaches, and she helps you formulate your whole pitch, right? So start to end. And really helping you simplify what you're talking about. Because this is one thing that happens is we're so engrossed in the little details. And, when we're from our industry, we don't even realize we're speaking in jargons. It's only until you talk to someone from outside of the industry where they're like, what is this person talking about?
It's so true.
And so another really important lesson was understanding to simplify how we're explaining what we do at the Tempest and the business side of things, right? When we're speaking to potential customers. I think that was another really incredible lesson.
I think, though, when you see somebody like Najal Midfa as well, heading up an organization like Sharjah and what she's doing with it, it just really brings to the fore, what women can bring at the very top of an organization like that. Would you agree, Laila?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that her presence at the organization, for not just for the companies, but for everyone that even pays attention to one of those companies or hears their story, the network effect of her in all that she is, as a woman, as a leader, it's having a global impact and a global effect, because quite literally she's ensuring that the work, for example, that the Tempest does, I mean, for each one of our 1,000+ contributors, they know that we participate in that program, that Najla headed that program, and they understand that this is leadership, that this is how it looks, and it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to own your experiences, and she does it so well.
Exactly. And more importantly, there's a big problem when it comes to women in startups, right? I could go on about this for a long time. There's only 2.2% of female founders who get funding. This is out of $100 billion in 2018 in specific, right? And so when you have a woman leading a startup center, and more importantly, they grew from having 3 programs to having multiple programs, different cohorts, right? And honestly, they're the ones behind one of the largest entrepreneurship festival, the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Festival, which has grown and grown. Last year, they got Gary Vee and Vishen Lakhiani, was one of my personal favorites. But again, having her, right? And then we have Sheikh Abdul Al-Qasimi again, and Sheikh Al as well. And they're doing incredible work here when it comes to the publishing side. And
yes, and we're going to come to more of that. I love how you're so excited about this. I can't even stop you talking about it. We have to go to a break. We've got the business headlines coming up, but yes, we have to come to Sheikh Abdul and Sheikh Hour with what they are doing here in Sharjah. There is so much more to discuss and more from your list. 40 women to watch. I love this so much. I'm discovering more and more women that I really, really need to know more about. That's next on Life Beats on Pulse 95.
Life Beats with Sally Musa, only on Pulse 95.
Women who are making waves. We are talking the 40 women to watch from the Tempest with Mashal Waqar and Laila Alawa, who are here with us in the studio from the Tempest. And as well as that, talking women in Sharjah who are very much not only doing big things here in the UAE, but also on the global stage. Something that comes to mind that you mentioned as well, Mashal, is Sheikh Hour, who currently is extremely busy with the Sharjah Biennial at the moment. Sheikh Hour is really somebody who's changed the art scene here in the UAE in incredible ways.
She really has. And you know what what I love most about her story is how, so at the age of 22, she's leading this art fair that's very conventional. And people don't expect someone of her age and a woman, a young woman in particular, to be leading up and then changing up the whole thing, right? From being very much traditional and orthodox and something to literally creating a thriving art scene here. I think that's what I love about her story, is like literally pushing forward change from that age. And I feel like I could relate bits and pieces because when I joined the Tempest, I was 22. And so it is, again, a strong reminder of, age does not matter when it comes to change. And when you're passionate about something, you can do it. And so going from that to literally, again, now the Sharjah Art Fair, and there's and that's one of the things, right? Sharjah is a hidden gem. I say this over and over again because a lot of things I didn't actually know about until I joined Sharjah, and I realized, like, I had been living here for this is my 6th year in the UAE, right? But until I joined Sharjah, and it opened up doors and honestly my eyes to a lot of the hidden scene that was going on in Sharjah when it comes to the art scene, but books in particular, which is, I love reading, right? So again, even what Sheikh Badur is doing, she's the vice president of the IPA, and she's actually the 2nd woman in the top position in the IPA. So again, a lot of challenges when you're working your way up to that position. And honestly, the changes she's pushing for in terms of literature, so Arabic literature in specific, right, with the Kalimat group, and then Sharjah is now also the world book capital. Again, I think that's another really, what do you call it? Is that, what's the phrase? Feather on your cap? Is that the phrase?
It's definitely a feather in their cap. One of many feathers. It's just incredible to see because over the weekend, on Thursday, in fact, Wednesday, Thursday, we saw footage of His Highness Sheikh Dr. Sultan bin Muhammad Al Qasimi, who was at the London Book Fair talking about Sharjah becoming the world book capital and the fact that they were rejected 8 times. Mm-hmm. 8 times and tried for it again. And the 9th time they were awarded this incredible honor because it's not a lot of cities that get this. But like you said, Her Highness Sheikh Badur doing incredible things. We were talking about the Kalimat Foundation just last week and about how they're bringing books to those who are visually impaired. I mean, this is huge, and just wanting to work directly with publishing houses as well, and wanting to, make sure that, what Amna, the manager of Kalimat Foundation, talked about, she called it born accessible books.
Right.
And I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Yeah, and that's, again, right? So these are changes you can push forward with accessibility in the literature world, and this is something that has not been focused on in the region. Let me tell you that, right? This is so necessary at this point. And so to see that happening, and again, so born accessible books, because when you have books that are Braille and you're not the one, there's just so much of literature here. And to see it in Braille, I mean, I think that's a big achievement. And we need it in other parts of the region, starting from Sharjah, but more importantly, there's such a big blind community here in the Middle East.
Yes.
Right? And that has been completely ignored.
Exactly. And that's what they're doing. They're reaching out to the whole region and trying to make sure that this is a reality, that this happens. So definitely, that 2 women who are doing huge, huge things at the moment here in Sharjah. But you guys are going to be focusing now on something that is really great. It is a mentorship program. And Mashal, you've got a lot of experience in this. I'm going to let you guys tell the story. Laila, how did this kind of come about in the first place?
Well, why don't we give Mashal a chance to share her story of how she came to be co-founder at the Tempest, and then it'll give you a little bit of an idea of what mentorship means to me and the Tempest. So
okay,
you go first, Mashal.
So one summer I was in Saudi, and I came upon an article on the Tempest, and it was through that I discovered the Tempest as a platform. And I remember binging on their content, right? And then I was reading it for hours and hours until I had the courage. I wrote this email 3 times. I have drafts on my Gmail from, years back I was sharing with Laila. And I said, hey, I want to join the Tempest, and I really love your mission. I love the content you're pushing forward, and I love the change you're creating with the type of content that's on the platform. How can I join? So I started off as a guest contributor, and then they had these fellowship programs, which was, they emailed me saying, hey, there's our fellowship program, applications are open. Do you want to apply for them? And I was so confused between the editorial and marketing. And I said, you know what? I'm going to push myself out of my comfort zone. I've always wanted to write, but this is at such a different level. And this is scary, but let me apply for the editorial fellowship. And I remember my first call with Laila when she was interviewing me for the fellowship program, because it was a very hands-on program where we don't mess around here.
No, we really don't. We don't.
At that time, so we were writing 3 to 5 different articles that you're going to be publishing. We were going to be working with an editor. You don't get to choose which channel you get assigned to. So, and that's how it is with media and publishing, right? You will be assigned stories that you may not know about. So you got to research, you do your job, and you learn. And so that's how I joined the Tempest as an editorial fellow. And I'd be writing articles, working with Laila. And that's how we actually formed a bond. Is, we would, I loved just pinging her, and she would actually mentor me as well, and pushing out and giving me advice when it came to different aspects, right? And that's how it went from editorial fellow to being a tech editor, because I told her, hey, we don't really have a thriving tech channel, so why don't I do that? And then she gave me two options. She's like, you know what, you can join as a culture editor. At that time, that's what it was called, or tech. And I said, let's do tech.
Yeah.
So that's how I joined the Tempest as a fellow.
Yeah, and I'll note that I remember the first email, and I forwarded it to our senior community editor, Safia, and I was just like, can you please talk to her? And then whenever we send an email out to someone saying apply for the fellowship, it's because they're either writing a lot or I think your first article was about deconstructed biryani, and there's one thing that you don't mess with Mashal with is biryani.
I'm with you 1,000% on that. Yep.
So it went viral, and so I had our team send Mashal an email to consider the fellowship, because if she brings her full self in that way, then we would love to have her on the team, and that's really what the gist of it is. I mean, I grew up homeschooled, so what that means is you make your own opportunities. So when I was 13, I was really passionate about insects. I still am, but my mom was like, why don't you do something about it? So I emailed a bunch of professors and ended up working at Harvard until I got to college. So, and it was on a research project. And so my gist when it comes to fellowships, when it comes to these kinds of opportunities, is I want to get the same kind of mentorship that I had a chance to taste in different moments of my life. And we make it very clear to folks who are interviewing for our fellowships that mentorship is a critical part of what we do, and it's not conventionally done. It's done through your very participation. And one thing I always say during orientation is you can get as little or as much as you want out of this program. You can show up, just do your stuff, and not literally but figuratively go home because it's remote. Or you can actually get what you want out of this, which is what Mashal did by showing up and just kind of, I know that you were a little tentative about pinging me at first. I don't know why I terrify people on my own team. I don't think I'm that scary. But, when it comes to our fellowship program, we offer everything from opportunities in video to design to growth hacking or editorial. And the reason I say that is actually our fellowships are open right now. And we're accepting applications from people of all backgrounds from, everywhere in the world. And we're specifically interested now in really bringing in applicants from Sharjah. We have folks that come in from Dubai, but Sharjah is one that we're particularly interested in because there's so much untapped talent here. And a lot of times, I've talked to women about this, but a lot of times women will say, I don't have anything interesting to share, or I don't have an interesting story. And the reality is regardless of what it is that your passion is, set aside that imposter syndrome for a hot second. I literally wrote into our application as you're going through it, push through the imposter syndrome. You're almost done. So fellows who are applying quite literally see that motivation. And so,
That's a stark, it's a complete opposite, because normally forms and applications are very scary, right? And so that's one thing that happens over and over is you as you're filling it more and, you get to the more detailed questions, you're wondering, am I right for this? Is this really something I should be going for? And there's a lot of thoughts and fears that you have, but with ours, the way it's designed as well, right? So we've put thought into every part of it.
Yeah.
I want to come back in just a moment and talk a bit more about that and, why it's so important to push through that imposter syndrome, because it relates right back to where we started with this list of 40 women to watch, because women are more likely to have that imposter syndrome and think, maybe I'm not quite right for this. Maybe I don't really. There are so many people who have more to say, more qualifications than I do. So we're going to come back and talk a bit more about that with Laila and Mashal.
You're listening to Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
Talk about radio? It's Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
Life Beats. Life Beats with Sally Musa.
Brought to you by Al Bayt Resort, a renovation of style in the heart of Sharjah.